between the forces of England, led by the Earl of Surrey, and the forces of Scotland, led by the great Scottish freedom fighter, William Wallace. And I know, because I fought here with William Wallace at the Battle of Stirling Bridge, but not for glory. Oh, not for gold. I fought to free my country, and in doing so I was obliged to drive out the English.
Scottish. This one's English.
Well, madam, we were occupied by England then, and the King of England was a ruthless and ambitious man, Edward I, the Plantagenet King. But to understand why we were occupied by England, you must understand a little bit of the history that went before. 10 years before this battle, our king was Alexander. Alexander III of that name. He was a very powerful king, and Scotland was very prosperous. Now, he was very friendly with Edward of England. He married his sister, the Princess Margaret of England, and the countries lived in relative peace. But then things started to go wrong. Queen Margaret died when she was young. Hard on the heels of the death of his young queen, Alexander's two sons died, the princes, David and Alexander. His daughter Margaret married Eric II, the King of Norway, but she died very young as well, not long after giving birth to a daughter called Margaret. Is everybody staying with me so far? If you're staying with me, say aye.
Aye.
That sounds like a fair majority. All we have to do is remember his little granddaughter in Norway, because the other two are dead, and of little consequence to the story. Alexander remarried. This time he didn't marry into the court of England, he's married into the court of France. He married a beautiful French lassie, Yolande, the Countess of Dreux. But not long after they were married, Alexander had occasion to be at a meeting in Edinburgh with his nobles. His new bride was about 40 miles along the river down there, away to the east, in a place called Kinghorn, by the sea. After the meeting, Alexander's reputation for hospitality was unrivalled, man. We all had a wee drink, boys, you understand? We didn't drink a lot of whiskey then, ladies. We drank wine, French wine, and plenty of it. Alexander, the king, after a little glass of claret, too many, led by his heart, ladies, rather than his head, he determined to cross the river and visit his beautiful new young French bride, eh? What man amongst us can find fault here? He crossed the river, and he came to this side. He rode away ahead of his companions. He was lost. He found his body the next day on the shores of Kinghorn, flung from the cliffs from his horse. All of Scotland laments. The last of the ancient kings is dead. When Alexander died, he was the first king of Scots for many years to die with no sons, nor did he name a male heir. These were dangerous times. Meetings were held with Eric of Norway and Edward of England, and it was determined that the law of primogeniture should take precedence. Primogeniture, which in have I again stumbled? Have I stumbled amongst the heathens? Not a word of Latin. Primogeniture is the firstborn, which would mean his little granddaughter Margaret in Norway, who's about 7, is to be brought back and looked after till she's old enough to be the queen and sit on the throne in her own right. This does not sit well with everyone, but it suits Edward of England very well indeed. Edward of England, lad. You know why they call him the Longshanks? You see that gentleman standing at the back? He is a fine example. Edward of England is a handsome man. I like it. He's tall. He's very tall and has very long legs, so they call him Longshanks. You and I must be the short shanks. Just for today. Edward of England has already taken Wales and Ireland, now he wants to take Scotland. So it suits his purposes to have a little girl on the throne, because the nobles argue amongst themselves already for her crown. He also said she would be promised in marriage to his son when she returned to Edward, the Crown Prince of England, the very first English Prince of Wales. They tell me. But it wasn't to happen because the wee girl never saw Scotland. She died on a boat coming from the island of Orkney. Some men say she died of a mysterious disease. Other men say different. What does it matter what men say? She's dead. We needed a new king, so they decided to choose by bloodlines to King David the First. Any man of royal blood could claim the throne. 13 men claimed the throne of Scotland. Chaos. Unable to make a decision, the nobles of Scotland went and asked their old friend and ally Edward of England for his counsel, and it was determined after many promises that would never be kept. Edward of England shall choose the King of Scots, to show impartiality, you understand, lest there be civil war. Probably Bruce should be king, for he is the strongest. But Edward will not choose Bruce, he is too strong. He wants no strong king on the throne of Scotland, and so he chose a weak man. He chose John Balliol, the Lord of the Galloway. Long live King John! See, this doesn't meet with public approval. John Balliol tried to revive our alliance with France, and Edward ordered him not to do it. He ordered him to raise an army to fight against France. John Balliol refused, but Edward of England does not accept refusals. This man, who was our greatest ally in Europe, became the most violent and vindictive king of England ever to attack our country. You may not know this. Edward of England attacked the town of Berwick upon Tweed.